My name is Evelyn Bageire and I'm a self-taught pyrography artist. I started out as a painter, like everyone else, painting, drawing of course, illustrations here and there, a bit of graphics, but eventually I branched off into pyrography. So I read up on pyrography and it's intriguing. Little by little, I'm creating images with heat initially. So I grew from working with heat, a heated pyrography tool, as a journey of experimentation and growth. That's how I got to now using flames, which I'm currently still exploring. What drew me to pyrography is the sense of control. So you have fire, an element, a very strong element, fire, and it's in your hands literally. So you're creating tones and it feels very fluid. So that's what I enjoyed about it. I'm in control of it and I can direct it to create and tell stories. With pyrography, the main thing is the fire, the heat. This is your tool. So the mediums that you would burn on vary. I personally was working with plywood initially. I moved to MDF board. Of course, this is my journey of experimentation, but there's a lot of different surfaces that you could use. There's leather, there's canvas. So this is all for exploration. At the moment, we are in Tinder, where I get my wood from. Everything I work with, I do at this workshop. I get all my MDF, plywood, and my framing I do from here. So we have a different selection of wood. There's different wood types, there's different wood sizes. So at the moment, we're going to go into where everything is. This is the plywood, but of course it's very thin, it's too thin. It would be too thin for the kind of work I'm doing. You have challenges like warping because of the size of the wood. But because I'm using flames and not heat, I'd rather use MDF board. MDF board, preferably a non-laminated. My process begins with a sketch of a composition. This is the ideas that you have in your head and you're bringing them together for what you would like to execute at the end. Then you transfer it onto wood. My surface is wood, so typically I'd transfer the sketch onto wood. Once you start, you're following these lines as a guide. I use the pyrography tools or the flame guns and flame torches, gas torches, and they come in different sizes because you need, say for example, you need a different size flame for maybe to cover a certain area, and then for details maybe you might need a smaller, more precise flame. So if it's maybe finishing, I would bring in some maybe sandpaper, razor blade to scratch away and create highlights. It's a journey of exploration and experimentation. You're going to have to find all these different ways to make things work. Initially, I was working with botany and exploring the female form. My communications would be speaking about women and the different challenges that they face on a day-to-day. My recent exhibition on Oluwafe by Njabala Foundation, this was an exploration of the women from way before we were born, like some of their untold stories. So how I built on that is in my own theme, which is on the history of Nakasero and how Nakasero got its name, how these women came from the Kabaka's palace and they were sent out to dig and sieve water out of the lake. It's a man-made lake. It still exists to this day, but it's the Kabaka's lake. So with my research, I found out that it's these women that went, they wove these baskets that helped them as tools. They used them as tools to help them sieve debris out of this Kabaka's lake. So when they went back home to rest, they woke up in the morning, one would go to the other, wasuzotia, and the other would respond, nasuzenaka serokange. We're told that that's how the name came about. So it's the entitlement again. I go back to that. Why is it the Kabaka's lake? You do not know the hands that helped to create it. My job as the artist is to tell it to you, to bring it to you, to tell you, listen, this is really the hands of these women, because they wove the tools that they worked with to make this lake, to come, to create this piece of history that we're looking at as the Kabaka's lake. So we're giving the title already to someone else. It belongs to them, but really, does it belong to them? I feel it belongs to these women, so they should be given the credit. My job as an artist is to give them credit. So my whole project, my whole hand in the exhibition was to honor these women.
I love the wood, the natural feel. I love the smell. I sniffed it. These artists are telling us the story of a woman in all her glory, in all that she is, all that she does. I would not like to call it feminist art, but I would call it art that portrays the parts of a woman that we do not usually speak about, like the rested woman is a common theme, and usually people do not really talk about that part of a woman because we are always doing things. You're doing things at work, you're doing things at home, the woman is always doing things. But you cannot separate femininity from rest, and I'm glad I've got to see that in all this work.
As a writer, I think being here today, I would like to highlight the way that history has erased the stories that were from the women's perspective. For example, the artist behind me is talking about a very important part of Buganda Kingdom's history, and that is the man-made lake that is now called the Kabaka's Lake. And it turns out a lot of the labor was done by these women. She had to do this research, and then she presented it in such a beautiful way. So personally, I'm really inspired, and I can't wait to put pen to paper.